Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is Sunday night. Sorry I'm a little bit late. I was just getting ready. I don't have a cup of tea yet, though. It is time for another live stream. So tonight we're going to talk about the flood of leaks around the 04 Lite. It had been rather quiet around the 04 Lite until now, and now it's all fallen out. There's bits of it everywhere. Pretty much everything you might want to know about 04 Lite has landed. So now we have pretty much the motherload on 04 Lite, or 04 as it's officially going to be called, and 04 Pro. And then there's been an interesting week. Again, new releases from Radiomaster. We've had the new XR series of receivers, and I want to talk a little bit about that, as well as me making an ExpressLRS relay module, because I need this to be able to test the Cadex relay module. So I've built that, and I'm going to video coming on how to do this, actually, but I am going to talk about that as well. We will talk a bit about the new chipsets as well in ExpressLRS, because it is an interesting time, actually, and we are in a transition period in ExpressLRS where we are moving over from the old chipsets to the new chipsets, and I want to talk a bit about that, and I'll talk about, really, what has stood out for me in 2024 and what I'm excited about in 2025, because it's been an interesting year, and I just want to sort of touch on the products I think that have made an impact, but also what's let us down and what many people may have forgotten about. Not so much, because I've been whinging about it a lot now and again, but we do need to talk about some of the stuff and where I think things are going to be headed next year. Now, before we get started, I want to say a huge thank you to ELRS, because he's dropped in a super chat before we start for 30 quid. Thank you, my friend. That's incredible. He said, a token of my appreciation for what you do for your hobby and content. Have a nice Christmas. And here's to another release. Thank you very much, my friend. That is amazing. So here's to another release. And let me just get and telling the companies to go F themselves. Yeah, there's a reason why I won't be getting 04. I may have done that to myself. Oops. But anyhow, have I adjusted the framing? Okay. Oh, yeah, you like this framing? Yeah, because normally we're on that framing. It's a bit of a mess behind me because I'm getting stuff ready. But yeah, a bit tighter. Everyone likes it a bit tighter. Anyway, so it's been an interesting week with regards to leaks from DJI. I'm going to get straight into it because we have finally seen the Lite, the standard, whatever we want to call it, come out. Someone has said, can I please tell me about your knowledge regarding the 04 Pro? The release date is the 12th of January, as I understand it. 12th or 13th, I can't remember off the top of my head, I need to check. It's the 12th or 13th of January. But that could change. DJI could change it tomorrow. You have to understand with DJI, it's not fact until it happens. But yeah, we've now finally seen the 04 standard leaks. And if we go to the desktop, here is the first image. Now, some of these appeared on my Discord before anywhere else. So you had a couple of other people leak this week, but these appeared on my Discord, actually, and I put them out then a little bit after. So here is the first image of the 03 Lite, sorry, the 04 Lite Air unit. If we go into this one, we can see the board now in a lot more detail. You can see that it is a single board design. There is some interesting stuff on here. They have done what I always said I didn't think they could do unless something changed. Something did change, and I missed that, and it was the fact that they could lose one of the RAM chips with the new 04 chipset. However, if you look, and I have talked about this on this channel before, on the Vista, and if I go to FPV Wiki and talk about this before we come back to this, I always said that on the Vista, there was an insane amount of wasted space. So if we go to the DJI FPV air units, and if we go down to the teardown images, if we look at the Vista, there was always a lot of dead space around the outside of the Vista under the heat shield. You know, there's so much dead space there. If we look at this side, a huge amount of dead space. And whilst I didn't think they could get the Vista onto a single board easily, there was definitely opportunity to get it in a smaller package. If you then add on top of that the fact that they've been able to reduce some space need as a result of the new chipset, DJI have been able to make a single board solution. But what you can see, it is literally populated edge to edge. There is close to not a millimeter of spare space unless it is around the posts. They have literally populated everything to the very edge. There's like no space between the ICs. So here you've got the S2 chipset. That is the new 04 chipset. That's the Eagle 3T chipset. You've got SRAM over here. You've got power supply over here. You can actually almost mirror and copy what is in 04 onto this air unit. You can see here, there's a voltage regulator, there's a coil, there's 4 voltage regulators there. That'll be the system management IC. There's another 4 over here. You can see coil, 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 coil. There is some stuff hidden under this sticky stuff here, which is quite interesting. We do have that there. There's another voltage regulator up here as well. Oh, my cup of tea has arrived. Thank you very much. There is a lot of power regulation all over this board other than the chipsets. But what you can see is they have literally had to go edge to edge. If we then jump across to the back side, so again, you've got your RAM chip. So just to go over, you got your S2, your E3T, your RAM chip, your power regulation. And then on this side, you've got a flash ROM, NAND, storage. The PA and everything is hidden under this little can here. Now, the reason for that will be how they've been able to get this through FCC certification. Because something to remember is there has still been no evidence as of today that the Vista is FCC certified. There is no FCC markings on this. There is no FCC certification for the Vista. DJI have never sold it themselves. If you look on the bottom of the casing for this, it has full FCC. There is no FCC for this at all. But what DJI have been able to do is reduce the package size and put a metal can on, which will give them their shielding to get it through FCC. And then looking around, we've got a USB-C, we've got our power port, we've got our camera cable connection port, and then you've got all your filtering on this side for your power supply and your I/O lines on your chipset. It is an extremely compact design, and I always said it would be very hard. I said close to impossible is the words I will use, but I will be honest, I forgot about the need for the additional chipset that they had, so they have been able to get it on. Now, with regards to the camera, it is worth us looking at this thing. Now, this isn't how it comes from DJI. I'll show you how it comes from DJI in a minute because we have seen leaked images of that as well. Someone has mounted this in like a TPU mount. I know why they would have done this because DJI is using a stupid mount on this camera again. After the release of these images, Igor had released some images as well. This is some renders of it, lightly pulled from DJI servers, if I'm honest. This is how they intend the camera to look. You can see there these renders there, but it is going to look like that there. It's going to have this housing around it. That's how it really looks. But what they've done here is mounted it onto some TPU to allow it to go into a standard mount. It's got this dull mount. There are a few other images. Here we go. There, you can see it there. So what you've got on the DJI setup, look, is a mount at the top and the bottom, which again, is not going to fit anything. I simply do not understand why DJI have gone for this crazy mount. It's just a bit crazy. But again, you can see that what that's happened is that person has removed that outer metal plate. They may not have even been shipped it from DJI because it's probably a pre-release unit. And then they've created their own mounting to allow it to go into a standard frame. Yeah, as someone says, take the case off. The only problem is you're probably going to have to increase the width a little bit to be able to get that in. But you can see there, that's what it looks like. Now, all of the indications are that the Lite is going to basically have a Neo-style camera, if not the same sensor as the Neo. We don't know for sure. And then the Pro is basically the Avatr 2 sensor. But we now have seen the Lite. Now, there are some things on this that have surprised me. And what I will say is, I'm not convinced yet that this won't ship without some form of shielding over the top. I'm not saying a full-on heatsink, but I still find it very hard to believe DJI will ship this air unit bare silicon. I might be wrong, but I will be surprised. If they do ship it bare silicon, they are opening themselves up for some warranty hell, because I can tell you already, these chipsets, this chip and this chip, this silicon is extremely sensitive. It is delicate. It will crack. Even the slightest of tap on the top of this and it's game over. For those who remember, I did a teardown video on an O3 air unit where I showed you it had been slightly crushed in the frame and it had cracked the Eagle 3T. I find it very hard to believe they will ship it without protection. Frankly, if I was DJI, I would ship that with like a 1.5mm aluminium heatsink over the top. And if you remove it, you lose your warranty, because they are asking for warranty hell shipping this like this, because people are going to damage this and they're going to claim that it was damaged, that it just stopped working. It will be interesting to see how DJI handle the warranty on this one compared to the others. I think it's asking shield part of the stack. I think I can see there just being like a cover, and it's your choice if you remove it, but if you do remove it, your warranty is gone. Because this chipset will crack. It absolutely will crack. I did a video on this a little while ago, actually. YouTube. Let's have a look. DJI O3 repair. And that's not how you spell repair. I did a video, I think it was... Here we go. Crash damage. So it's this video here. No recovery. And actually, this one had come in crushed, right? So it came to me like this, and it was sent to me by the amazing guys over at Your FPV. And you can see, I could see it had been crushed at the bottom, okay? It had been crushed in, and it was getting really hot. And what we did in the teardown is we started having a look at the PCB. And let's just get to that. We got to the teardown, and I could see... Now, I predicted before I did this that this chipset was cracked. You can see it here. You will start to see it that there are little marks in the chipset. And I already thought it was cracked. There you go. There you can see. So that's a real good image of the crack in the E3TB. It will crack with an impact. It really will. And when we got it under the thermal camera there, you could really see it under the thermal camera because it was basically shorted out. And it's, yeah, she's a broken wafer. She's end game. No more. Will be no more. Now, that is in a fully cased O3E unit that was mildly crushed. And I mean mildly crushed. I wonder how well this will hold up. Genuinely, people are going, I can see, and I'm going to predict it now, wait for the flurry of broken O4E units that suddenly don't work after a crash. Now, DJI may be able to mitigate this somewhat. It depends the PCB thickness. Something to note about the O3 PCB is that it is incredibly thin, so it will bend. As a result, can crack the IC. They could mitigate this with a thicker PCB. We don't know the PCB thickness. And they could put a metal shield over the top. But we're going to have to wait and see. So, that's it. We now have seen it. We're now waiting for it to come out. It'll be interesting to see how it fits into stuff, how it behaves. We're going to have to wait and see with regards to the longevity. But overall, it's great to see they managed to do it. Now, as I've shown, there were some images coming up. So this is the marketing images that we've started to see. These are renders basically pulled, probably ready from the DJI website. There was also this render which was taken. People got a bit excited about this and thought, oh my God, is DJI releasing a drone as well? No, they're not. This is like what they do on the O3 website. They have a little picture of a drone that moves. This is exactly the same. What's interesting here is they're showing you the O4 Pro upside down. So it looks like they're intending for you to mount it upside down because that's why the holes are on the top. But that does show sort of what it looks like. That they're not making a drone. If you actually go to DJI's normal website, so if I go to DJI O3, if I search for DJI O3 and the O3E unit, somewhere down here, it's that image there, but there's another one down here. There's a video somewhere. Where is it? It'll be down here somewhere. There it is. It's that. It's just the render and the video that they use for making these kind of things on their website. You know, it's not a drone. They're not making a drone. It's just marketing crap. So don't worry about it. They had the same for the original FPV system. They had it for O3 as well. It's just one of those things. But yeah, it's coming. Early, I can't call it mid-Jan and you can't call it early Jan. What would you call that? I don't know what you'd call that in January. 12th of Jan is what I'd call that in January. So the leaked specs. Well, I leaked the specs already. Many people have already leaked the specs. The specs I leaked were the correct specs. So the specs are already out. I did that months ago. If we go to YouTube, all of the modes. So let's compare what I leaked months ago to what's on that website. So if I go to my channel and I go to community and I posted ages ago. Here it is. So Here was it. When was that? A month ago, a month and a bit ago. So there has been a website that has popped up with what people are, well, looks like the specs on. Let me just find it. There's a German website that seems to have listed it. Not quite sure what that's about. They've got the 04 Lite. We need to translate this into English. Thank you, from German. And there is some suggested pricing on this as well. We still prefer my render. Yeah. What they're saying on here is 4K 4x3. So what I put in the original specs was this. So what did I put in these? Oh, didn't I add the specs on that? Oh, no, I didn't put them on there. I had them, I just didn't put them on there. Did I not put it on there? Oh, no, I didn't. That's a bugger. I thought I had. The specs indicate 30 frames a second, up to 60 frames a second. So is this the spec? Yeah, 1/1.3. So video resolution, 4K 4x3 up to 60, according to this. 4K 16:9 up to 120, which makes sense because that sensor is going to have a limitation. I thought I put them out there. Max video bitrate, 130 megabits a second. This spec, so that's Air Unit Pro. That's the Air Unit Pro. And there's also a link for DJI 04. Have they got the link for the Lite as well? That one, there you go. So there's a link for the Lite. Yeah, 60 frames a second in 4x3. 16:9, 60 frames a second. 120 frames a second in 1080p. Now, the thing to understand is this. The 04 Pro and the 04 Lite are basically the same spec. Technically, hardware-wise, they're the same. But what DJI have done is clocked the Lite lower. The hardware, other than the camera module, so the camera module is different, but the Air unit from a physical point of view, yeah, I said 100 megabits a second on my spec. They look like they've underclocked it. And the reason they've likely underclocked it is because of the lack of cooling. That will be why they've done it. So, when it comes to the recording specs, that will be the recording specs, not the live feed specs. So, can it record 4K 120 and transmit 1080p 120 at the same time? Yes. That's how it works. So, DJI will be... So if we look at the spec, I swear I put the camera recording modes. I must have shared it on Discord and not there. So, where it says here, 16:9 up to 4K 60, it will do 1080p. So, remember on DJI, the refresh rate has to match. So, if you're in 60 frames a second recording, you are in 60 frames a second live feed. If you're in 120 frames a second recording, you're in 120 frames a second live feed. You must have the same frame rate. It is not possible to have separate frame rate. It's not possible. It's a technical limitation. You just can't do it. There's no system that can do it. It's not easily possible. The only thing you can do is you could bin frames on the Air side onto the DVR, but you can't bin frames out the other way. And even if you do bin frames, it's not going to look great. Because remember, your sensor is being refreshed at a certain pace. So you could go slower than that for recording onto the DVR and bin frames. So for instance, you can technically record the DVR at 60 frames a second whilst the live feed is at 120. What you can't do is have the live feed at 100 frames a second and the recording at 120. That's not possible. But DJI make it pretty much so they align. It's the way they've always done it. And there is good reason for that. Now, overall, the Lite is the same hardware. This ear unit is as capable as the Pro with regards to what it can do. But what DJI are balancing now is the camera capability and the ear unit capability with regards to thermally. So it looks like DJI have intentionally underclocked the Lite ear unit, is the term I'll use, underclocked it. They have intentionally limited it to 100 megabits a second instead of 130, and they have limited the recording modes. What we don't know yet, though, is if the recording mode limitation is as a result of the camera and not the thermals. So, for instance, could you have all of the Pro recording modes if you attach the Pro camera to the Lite ear unit? We don't even know if you can do that today. I don't have it. I can't test it. The testers are out there. They've probably done it, or they probably haven't. I would like to think you could put the Pro camera on the Lite ear unit, but let's wait and see. But it's not clear if the limitation... So, if we just go back to the specs a minute and look here. So we've got the OLED 04 ear unit Lite and 04 ear unit Pro. Okay, so the Lite is specified. Let's change it to English. So the Lite is specified in 4K 16:9 to be a maximum of 60 frames a second, and the Pro is specified to be 4K 16:9 up to 120 frames a second. So the Pro can do more. The question is that limitation camera or is that limitation ear unit? I suspect it's ear unit and it's thermal. And that's what my suspicion is. That's what my suspicion. 03 ear unit will be discontinued when 04 ear unit comes out. It isn't confirmed, but I would put money yes once stock runs out. I would absolutely expect 03 to vanish pretty quickly. There is no good reason for DJI to continue to sell 03 at this point. Walksnail's response to DJI 04 in 2025 is going to be interesting. Walksnail haven't got a response to 03, so I don't know what response they're going to have to 04. They're going to have a reply, obviously. However, the truth is, when it comes to a physical camera capability, they're not near. They're just not even close. It's like comparing an SJ cam to a GoPro. It's that far away. The Moonlight's nice, but it ain't great. They said the same about the Caddx Vista and Caddx unit. Yeah, look, what DJI have done here is, you have to take into account what DJI have put on this board is basically a full action camera. How much better is 04 to 03? You have to separate that into two questions, and this is an interesting one. So, what should we expect 04 versus 03? Well, there are two elements. There's element one, which is the camera, and there's element two, which is the RF link. Because remember, 04 is a system, but there are elements of that system that are different. You have 04 on the Neo, you have 04 on the Avata 2. It's the same RF system, but it's a different camera. So you have to separate off the differences. So, what are the benefits of the 04 Pro ear unit over 03? Well, you're taking a step up onto a better sensor, better low light performance. 04 Pro should look basically identical to the Action 4 and the Avata 2. It's as simple as that. Camera-wise, it should look identical. I will say this again, and I've said it before. From an image processing perspective, 04, 03, Avata 2, Avata 1, Action 4 all have the same image processor. There is no change in the image processor, basically. It's the same chipset. They're all capable of the same. So from an image processing capability, the Avata 1 and the Avata 2 are identical. The only difference is the camera. And that's where we've seen the benefit. Now, when it comes to the RF link, this is where things get a bit more complex because we do have a new chipset. 04, the RF link, has increased bandwidth, so it can now work up to 80 megahertz carrier. That's double the carrier size that was capable of 03. 03 was limited to 40 megahertz carrier. 04 can go up to 80 megahertz carrier, although we've only seen it up to 60, but it's capable of up to 80. As a result of that, DJI have increased the bandwidth up to 60 megabits a second. Now, what is very interesting about this fact specifically is on 03, we had 40 megahertz carrier, 50 megabits a second. DJI upped it to potentially 80 megahertz carrier, which should allow, when you do the math, on 60 megabits or 60 megahertz carrier, you should be able to get about 70 megabits a second, 75, and on 80 megahertz carrier, about 95. However, DJI have limited the link to 60 megabits a second. And what that potentially means is they are using more of the bandwidth for error correction than they are image quality. And that is very interesting because what that means is it gives you better penetration, better overall link resilience and performance. DJI 03 is great. 04 on the Avata 2 is frankly insane. It is on another level. There's nothing that gets near it. And I mean, there is not a wireless video link. And I don't even think people who have never used it even begin to comprehend how good it is. For anyone who has not used 04, it's insanely better than anything else, including 03. It is so much better than 03. It is insane. It's dramatically better. Someone's just said 04 seems much better, 1 megabits, potentially because of the additional error correction. 04 is dramatically better. It is bonkers. And as Milford Killen's just made a really good point. We've not even seen the true capability of 04 because, as he rightly says, it's true, Avata 2 is so good, especially considering the antennas are inside the body. Exactly. It's a compromised design, yet it works so well. It's bonkers. Is it the same as the Mini Foot Pro? It's a different setup of 04 on the camera drone series, so it's not comparable. We've really not seen what 04 can do in an FPV perspective yet, because we've not had a setup that really has allowed you to show, because we didn't have the ear unit. That will come with the release of the ear unit. So it is, from an RF perspective, nuts. It's just bonkers. The image quality, how it performs, it is just so resilient. I think there will be a huge impact from 04 in just how flyable it is. I'm not holding my breath. Will Goggles 2 work with 04? It's fully spec to be. So I just wish lasted at least a year. LL, I think you're living in some form of reality that isn't true. I just wish DJI's development cycle lasted at least a year. 03 is now... When did DJI 03 release? 2 or 3 years ago? I think it's at least 2. It's at least 2 years ago, potentially 3. DJI's development cycle is well over a year now. Yeah, the official spec is that the Goggles 2 and the Integras, they can only do 50 megabits because that's hardware limited. And they won't have race mode. Because they don't support it. Now, there is a lot we don't know about 04 yet. There's a lot of people will have questions. Things like, what will the range limit be? We don't know. Obviously, DJI have upped the spec limit for 04, as they always do, because it's got more antennas, so it lasts more. 03 is definitely 2 years, isn't it? It's definitely 2. It'll be over 2 years by the time 04 comes out. What's the gotchas? Well, the gotchas will be interesting with DJI, and they're always there. So, here's my predicted gotchas, and I don't know for sure. Gotcha number 1, I'm not convinced this camera is going to be very good in low light. If this is the same camera as on the Neo, I think whilst there's a lot of people excited about this, for ultralight, low-level FPV, I'm not convinced it's going to be great. I think this is going to be compromised, to say the least. They're not going to give you full bandwidth on older goggles. They can't give you full bandwidth on older goggles. It's physically not possible. The older goggle chipset cannot do full bandwidth. It's not want, it can't. That's why you've never had more bandwidth on it before. It is physically limited to the 40 megahertz channel allocation. The hardware cannot do more. November 22, that's right. So it'll be over 2. It's over 2 years now. Do you think we can put it on a Whoop? There's one other gotcha which I think will come to light, which is the power consumption. Has these guys listed any power consumption on their spec? No, they haven't. I seriously still think power consumption will be an issue. Now, these are specifying the weights at 8.2 grams with the camera. Not sure about that. DJI will never make a VRX. Won't happen. They have no interest in that market. There's no power consumption spec. I do wonder what this is going to be like. Yes, someone else spotted it there. I was asked about this the other day. That is the official minimum. 3.7. Well, that's not going to be enough for Whoops, for starters. Let's see, though, what it browns out at. We don't know for sure yet, so that will definitely be a gotcha. 3.7 volt on low end. That's 1S out the window. But we don't know what the actual compromise is yet on that, but it might go lower, but that's worth taking into account. But I also think the power consumption is... I think the power consumption will be too much for 1S. I just don't think it's realistic for 1S. I think it's a 2S. I still think it's just too big for 1S. What's the 3-in-1 cable? Power, UART, and S-Bus. So remember, DJI still has the onboard link. The live view link is 1080p. Well, it goes 1080p to 720p. It's dynamic. It's not always 1080p. It starts at 1080p and drops down to 720p. So heavy for 1S anyhow. Yeah, there's still too much weight there. There's still too much weight. You know, if you look at what HD0 had to do to get to 5 gram, and even people were still unhappy with 5 gram on the AAO. I think it's 2 and 3S. Do I think the 04 camera can work on the 03 transmitter? Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. I'm not expecting it. Still using goggles V2. Yeah, latency is definitely down in race mode. There's also a big gap in the latency understanding because, as I mentioned in the spec when I leaked it, race mode, it's as low as 15 milliseconds in race mode on the Pro. But here's another interesting point. The Lite doesn't go down that low. It's 20 milliseconds. So the smallest air unit with the slightest and smallest camera has higher latency than the Pro air unit and camera. So again, there's a gotcha. There's always a gotcha there. What we don't know is what the latency is going to look like on the older goggles as well. There's a lot to understand. There's a huge amount to understand. We don't know what the latency will be like on goggles 2 or Integra. We already know the goggles N3 are there. We've got 30 milliseconds on the goggles 2 and Integra. So that's, you know. Any chance you'll do a voltage noise test? Can have a look. Ben asked, I haven't, but I can reach out to them, Ben, and ask. Send me a message later. Have I seen a picture of one of the open IPC AIOs? Yeah, there's some stuff floating about. I haven't seen. We'll come on to that in a minute. I think an AIO, if it's someone working on a flight controller with OpenIPC, I don't see the point. Don't run before you can walk. At this moment in time, OpenIPC doesn't need a flight controller. Again, the biggest problem many open source projects face, especially in the early days, is things turning into an octopus and going everywhere rather than concentrating on the central, most important thing. DJI 04 Lite is not going to replace the 03 or even the Vista. No, the 04 Lite is for small end. The 04 Pro is what DJI want everyone to buy. Can you measure the stick centers on the GX12? We'll do it in a minute. Someone said earlier about apparently is Trappy working on a digital FPV system? It'll be out in 2 years. 2 months. Sorry, it'll be out in 2 months. Did someone say apparently Trappy's working on a digital FPV system? Is that what someone has heard? I find it hard to believe. Higher chance of Orca releasing theirs. I don't see it. I don't see... Look, I don't see anyone... else really entering the market anytime soon from a big perspective. I think things have settled. I think, you know, I'm in the middle of trying to review this at the moment. So obviously we've got CADX who are pushing out things like this. Hello, Sean. CADX are pushing out things like this. Pretty much everyone else is making whatever they can to drop grenades from in Ukraine. Now, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I am going to talk about it briefly for a second. Did anyone see the Red Cat video? The crap show that is? If you haven't, it might be worth a look. The Red Cat interview. We're basically... No, I'm not going to say it. I almost did. I'll let you make your minds up for yourself. That tells you everything you need to know about Red Cat Unusual Machines, Rotor Riot, and anything involved with that. Pretty... It backs up my entire thoughts, but I don't want to go down the rabbit hole with it. Boom Boom Drones. Didn't see it. If you go to Red Cat's YouTube channel, it's on there. Some of the comments on it are... It's along the lines of basically the more... There's a comment which I thought was rather interesting. And it's literally, if people want to use their drones to... as basically kill people, they're happy to sell as many as they can. And that's what was said. Literally blood money. But hey. And it was literally blood money. They use them as munitions and keep buying them. If they use them as munitions and keep buying them, it's fine by me. So that's basically saying people they can use them as weapons and keep giving them money, and it's fine with them. I imagine they will sell to anyone with cash, absolutely. But look, that company is... Look, there will never be a product for that company on this channel again. That they are... Interesting comments around the pilots. Nope, the hills have FPV. You are very right. What's up with these drone sightings? It's DJI testing 04. That's what all these drone sightings are about. It's all the 04 testers. They can't tell you what it is. I'll let people... If you go to Red Cat's Facebook... If you go to Red Cat's page... I'll do it so you know where it is. I wonder if they'll end up taking this down. It's an interview with Jeff Thompson and Market Rebellion. It's this interview here. Go listen to it for yourself and you make up your own minds. That's all I'll say. Pretty horrible. Pretty nasty. Everything that I've said is a problem. Basically is. And what you can argue is they said what everyone else is doing and thinking out loud, but they're saying it louder and more than anyone else. And again, they are literally promoting the use of FPV drones as ordnance, and they have openly said, hey, you want to use them, we'll keep selling them to you. But they also talk about why Unusual Machines and the pilot skills, and it was valuable for the pilot skills and stuff. And yeah, interesting. You can read into what you like. And I got to stop, because if I don't, I will say something I will probably regret. So I've said it. It's there. Go watch it for yourself. And that's it. Okay. That's DJI. It's a-coming. It's a-coming. Right, to catch up on the Super Chats, because I've missed a few. Singy FPV, thanks for the great work. $5. Thank you for that, my friend. That's incredible. 73 FPV. I think I've seen every uploaded stream made for the last 2 years. You are a man. I've learned a lot from your teachings. Thanks for that. Oh, thank you, my friend, for the $30 Super Chat. And then Toilet Duck. Thanks for doing what you do, mate. Merry Christmas to you. Thank you for the 20 Australian dollars. That's really kind. I really appreciate it. Thank you for that. Expander it is. It's amazing what you can say. He even basically admits to pumping in it as well. He basically admits to pumping the stock. They're going to pump and dump. They print the numbers upside down on those dollars. Yeah. Okay. If you've got any questions, put them in the chat now and I'll try and answer them before we move on. Let me close a million windows that I have open for the DJI 04 Lite E unit. That one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Yeah, I had loads. Just catching down. Yeah, the stock. I'm going to stop. I don't want to. Release when? 12th or 13th of January. Yes, right. So Ben has led me into this. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Oh, that's not it. Where's it gone? That's not it. Them. So my video went live a couple of days ago. I went live after launch because I wasn't ready. But Radio Master have released the new XR series. I have one here in front of me. In fact, I have one in this, which is an ExpressLRS transmitter module, relay module. Really great to see. Look, it's now the real beginning of ExpressLRS transitioning into the new chipset. Someone just asked it, does the ceramic antenna do 900? No, that is the only receiver that is limited to 2.4 gigs. That one has to be limited. There are no small 900 megs antennas. Now, I actually have a bit of an error in my video because I actually said that there are no small 2.4 gigs antennas. I meant 900. But yeah, the XR2 is limited to 2.4 gigs because you just can't get a small 2.4 gigs antenna. If you could, it would look like the Eiffel Tower. You'd have to, it'd look like a model of the Eiffel Tower about that big. They could have done a wire one though, but what's the point? You may as well get the XR1 if you want that. But it's great to see that we're now in a transitional phase and ExpressLRS is clearly moving into that new phase of new chipsets. Someone just asked there, XR4 or versus DBR4. I get the XR4. Just get the XR4. I don't fully understand the DBR4. Look, I understand overall the theory. The theory with the DBR4 is, so for those who don't know, the DBR4 is the 4 antennas. So it has independent antennas for each chipset for 2.4 gigs and 900. Whereas the XR4 has a shared antenna and you need to use a dual band antenna. Now, in theory, the benefit of individual antennas is better performance on each. How that ends up in the real world, though, remains to be seen. We need to have a look how these antennas are connected because I haven't checked the Radio Master ones, but someone tore down one of the antennas from another brand and they were not connected. And what I mean by that was this. Let me just go to the overhead and find one of them. So I've got it here. Okay. Now I need to get one of these open actually. And we need to have a look if they've actually been connected. So here is the XR4. It's in heat shrink because I've been using it. But it uses dual antennas. But someone tore one of their antennas down from another manufacturer, right? And the 2.4 gig element was not attached to the 900 element. It wasn't attached to anything. It was just sitting there. Now, there is some theory that the way that would work is you would have RF on here, transitioning over to here, and then radiating and resonating on that. But it isn't something that I've checked. And as someone has just said, maybe throw it on an SWR meter. We could throw it on the VNA. Now, unfortunately, to do this, I do have to use a test board. No, I don't. I bought a connector. Right, should we try this? Let me get a 2.4 gig antenna. Shall we have a look at this? Power on. Is the battery flat? Do you know what? I haven't used this for a little bit. No, it's not. Good, good, good. Let me grab a 2.4. That's an 868-900. There should be a 2.4 in here somewhere. No, it's not there. Actually, let me grab that one. There we go. So, I've got a 2.4 gig here. So, let's just set this a second. So, we're going to click on frequency. Oh, you guys can't see that. Sorry. So, at the moment, we're on 5 gigs. We don't want to be on 5 gigs. We want to be on 2.4 gigs. So, let's go into menu, set the frequency. What I need to do is calibrate this on 2.4 gigs. So, let's get out my calibration pieces. Now, these are not the best calibration pieces, but right. So, what's the exact frequency of the 2.4 gig band? Let's go start to let's go to 200, enter, stop to 700, enter. That's the center frequency. So there we got the center frequency of 245. 2.3. There we go. That's pretty good. So we've got the frequency set there. So let's go to the menu. Let's go to calibration. Let's erase. Let's calibrate the open first of all. Let's just do a cal on that, and then I'll scroll in so you guys can see it. Calibrate open. Here we go. Calibrate short, which is that one there. I'm going to bring that in so you guys can see it. There we go. And then we'll calibrate load. Now, this isn't perfect, but this will allow us... Now, I do find sometimes doing the calibration isn't great on this and it can throw errors. But now here I'm using a standard ExpressLRS antenna. So here we have a normal one that I would expect to work fine. So let's scroll through. We want to go... No. Plots, markers. No, let's come out of that. I want to go through... SWR limit, nope, that's fine. Interesting. And we have an antenna on there. Okay, so, oh, sorry, you couldn't see then. So this antenna seems to be tuned at 2312 and then heading up is this little ExpressLRS antenna here. Let me just see if I can find another one. Have I got another one I can use? This is a really cheap one. Anything under 2.5 is good. I don't know how this one is going to behave. Ah, there you go. Well, look at this one. I'm quite happy with this one. So this, look at this. That's actually tuned pretty good. That little. Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting that you can't see that. Yeah, so it's in the air. Let's bring that other one back up into the air. You do really need it off the deck, as Jay says. Let's try and bring it up. Whoop. basically the same, but it has shifted up. But it's pretty good. So that's pretty good there. So let's try what the Radio Master one looks like, shall we? There we go. Now I got to try and get this into the air. Well, there you go. That is... Oh, God. Sorry, you can't see. Damn light above. There you go. Well, that is absolutely tuned for 2.4. Almost 2.4 dead. That is pretty good. So if I just scale it so you can see it there. Bloody display. That looks bang on. No issues with that at all. Let's turn on the marker. We can SWR. Let me... Actually, no, I don't want that marker. Let's get off. Get off a minute. Markers. Let's go to 400, and then we can enter, and then go back to there, go back to there. There you go. So that there is 2400. Wow, it's even gone down. So it's basically tuned perfectly. It's basically tuned perfectly. I'm having to hold it a little bit, but that is tuned really nicely on 2.4 gigs. That's fine. There's no issues there at all. So these, stick that XT60 under the rear. Yeah, I need to stick, there you go. Do a happy model antenna. There you go. So that's great. So if we now let's do a big span, right? Let's see how this behaves on a big span. So start. Let's go for 500. Stop 2750. How will this look on that sort of span? There you go, look at that. That's really cool to see. So there you can see the two bands that it is tuned on. So you can see there on the 868-900. We'll check that now in a second, but you can see the peak coming down there. That is less than 1.8. And there, that is right down. So these Radio Master antennas are bob on. Absolutely bob on. Yeah, some of that funny stuff could be because we didn't recalibrate. Yeah, 100%. I've not got it 100% here. And I'm holding it, which doesn't help. You know, I'm trying to hold it in the air. But what you can absolutely see... Yes, SWR. We're looking at S11 SWR. If we go to closer, 868-900. So if we do that, we will need to recalibrate. So let's set the start frequency of 500, stop frequency of 1000. I can revert to the internal calibration if I want to. If I go to the internal calibration is actually pretty good on this unit. I've used it before. So there you go. We probably want a higher frequency on this. The internal cal isn't too bad. Stop at 1500. Oh, God. Delete 1500. There you go. Ah, there you go. So again, basically 900 megs. And if we go in tighter, so if we want to see what the absolute lowest is, so if we want to go, say, 700, oh God, 700 to, say, 400, enter. Actually, I don't even want that. Let's stop at 1100. That'll get us closer. Oh, what have I done? I've not got the lower. Oh, no, starts at 900. Too high. We want to go 700. There we go. There you go. But basically, just below 900 megs. That's fine for 868. I worry in general these dual band antennas that 868's an afterthought. I wouldn't worry about 868. It is tuned right in the middle. Pro tip, turn on your Nomad TX and you'll see the interference on the VNA. You can check if the packets are in the dip. Yeah, she's, yeah. That's very cool. That's very cool. Hello, Drone Shots. But that antenna's tuned fine. There is nothing wrong with that at all. At all. So Radio Master, I should have done this as part of the review. But Radio Master are shipping really good antennas. Really good antennas. So, Lazy Bee, you're probably heading behind. I've already done it. So, there you go. It's been a while since I've got this one out. So, really cool to see. Really cool to see. Now, obviously, these new receivers are, you know, I do like the XR4. I can't, and look, Jay's might be there. Jay, what, is there any good reason for the DBR4 over this that I can't think of, other than having its own antennas? I can't think of one, if I'm honest. I can't think of a good reason. Is there anything technically the DBR4 can do that these can't? Size. 04 was at the start. Just wait to see if he replies. Elon Musk. Better ballast. Yeah, look, you technically got like a more tuned, easy mounting for the larger craft. You know, in theory, I guess because it's got dedicated filters, so it's going to have a tidier tuned front end. That's with individual antennas correctly tuned for the band. You're going to get benefits on an RF perspective, but I would expect it to be minimal overall. ELRS TX compatible with 2.4 and 900. The Nomad. The Nomad is compatible with 2.4 and 900. Now, whilst I'm here, I'm going to show you guys this. Now, this abomination is an ExpressLRS relay. Was an ExpressLRS relay. Now, this is designed to relay the ExpressLRS signal from this receiver back out from this transmitter. And the reason this exists is because I'm in the middle of testing this and I need a relay for the RC control link. Now, I've made a video on this and I've actually completed the video today. It's all done and dusted. It's ready to publish. But the idea of this is this, right? And I'm just going to show you this in action because it does actually work. Yes, it does look familiar. Now, I have set this up as follows, and this isn't the way the dev team recommend, but I'm doing it the opposite way because I need 2.4 gigs on the output. But the basics are, my GX12 is set on ExpressLRS
switch warning
to 900 megs. No, it's not. It's set to 2.4 gigs. Sorry. The GX12 is set to 2.4 gigs, 250. Sorry, no, it isn't. Yeah, 900. What? Why have I put a 2.4 gig antenna on that? What an absolute knobhead. Why have I done that? Why have I done that? Right, starting again. This radio communicates with this receiver on 868-900 through the 2.4 gigs antenna. Then goes into the Nomad, which is set to 2.4 gigs, which communicates with the quad on 2.4 gigs. Now, this is designed to be used as a relay. So what you can see here, we're on 2.4 gigs low band. Let me just plug in this flight controller in a minute. So you can see here, this is a normal ExpressLRS 2.4 gigs. So when I power this up, what will happen is this receiver will connect to this transmitter. Oh, we're armed. Turn that off. So you can see these two are now linked on 900 megs. Our module is active. If I now plug in power to this and turn this on, because it's currently turned off. So 1 second. Let me just get the power on my bench supply because I haven't powered that on. Two seconds. I forgot I powered it down. Here we go. So, if I now power on this receiver, you will now see that that has connected, and that's now connected to this. So we're now relaying the RC control link from here to here at 900 megs, out of here into 2.4 gigs, into here at 2.4 gigs. And just to prove this actually works, if I plug this into Betaflight, and I could have just plugged in the bloody USB if I'm honest. That would have been the quicker way of doing it. But anyway, if I plug in the USB and open Betaflight, not the ExpressLRS configurator, Betaflight. Here it comes. There it is. Click on the connect. Into the receiver tab. You can see it is working. So there, you can see I have the full RC control link. So 900, so overhead 900 to 900 on the receiver. Got to change the bloody antenna out now. How did I do that? Into the Nomad, out of the Nomad, into this at 2.4 gigs. And the idea is it is a full ExpressLRS relay. Now, the reason I built this was because I needed it to be able to have a relay for testing the relay from Cadex FPV. It's actually fairly simple to do once the ExpressLRS dev team actually talk you through it and you don't act like a complete dick and get some stuff wrong, like I did. It also gets really confusing, right? Does the RX relay the arming status to the TX module? So, remember, the arming status on the TX module, it relays straight through and out. So it's all the same straight through and out. As for, because it's on a UART, this module isn't set on low power mode, so it's set on normal power mode. But the basics are, remember, when that's set to armed, it would exit it at a low power mode, but it doesn't need to do that because I've turned low power mode off. But yeah, now for some reason I managed to fit the wrong, how do packet rates work? So what you need to do on the packet rates is you really should do this with a module that has a display because it makes your life easier. If you do it on a module that has a display, right, you don't have to mess around with setting it beforehand. However, what you do is simply put it in your transmitter and set it to the settings you want. So I've set it onto the correct setting, which is 2.4 gigs, 250 hertz, I think. And turned off low power mode. And that is just how it will then boot. It will boot into that. If you had a module with a display on, I wanted to use the Ranger, but the Ranger doesn't have a UART input, unfortunately. The Bandit does, but the Ranger doesn't. The ExpressLRS dev team would actually recommend you do 2.4 gigs from your radio to your module. So what you should do on the overhead is 2.4 gigs from here to here, and then 900 from here out. But I'm not doing it that way. I'm doing it the other way because I like to do things differently. What you get yourself in a mess with doing this is all of the different antennas, because you end up trying to remember what you're doing and where, because it's like, right, so I've set this to only use that transmitter on 2.4 gigs on 250 hertz is what I've set it to do. Other thing you need to do is make sure you have separate binding phrases as well. So that's something else you need to do. But yeah, really, really cool. Really cool to see. Works absolutely nicely. Haven't tested it in the real world yet. I now, though, do need to find my little bag of antennas. I should have a 900 in here. I do have a single 900. No documentation, but I have a video coming on how to do it. It's not using backpack. No. You do need to use a transmitter module. Ideally, you need to use a transmitter module that has a UART, and that is why I am using the Nomad. The UART for the Nomad is inside, but you can do it via S-Port 1 wire, but Jay will tell me off because you'll get arguments between the TTL lines and it won't work properly, apparently, and you get loads of issues. But you do need a module with a UART. So this module has an internal UART. That's why there's wires coming out in there. So I've had to solder internally. If you were, though, to do this with the Bandit has a UART on the bottom and it's all plug and play. Ready to rock and roll. It's a shame they didn't put the UART externally on this. If they put the UART externally, it would have been really, really cool. Now, as I am a complete idiot, as you have seen, I did manage to fit the wrong frickin' antenna onto this receiver. So I'm just going to cut that little bit of heat shrink there. Carefully peel that back and off and fit the correct antenna on because I am a complete idiot. It gets so confusing when you're doing this between the frequencies because your brain is going, well, that one goes to there, that one does that one does what? There we go. Sorted. Swapped over to 900. There we go. What an idiot. Now, someone asked me to measure something on this radio before I move on. What was it someone wanted measured? What was it you wanted to know? Someone wanted to know something about this radio. And was it to measure the stick centers? I would say 101 mil between stick centers. 100. Yeah, 100 mil. 100 mil. Was that what you wanted to know? Boxer is 99. Need some deadband, yeah. So, Boxer AGO1 plus Nomad or GX12. Depends what you got. If you've got a Boxer already, get a Nomad and you're ready to go. Is one sensor really enough? If you're talking about gimbal sensor, it's a 3D gimbal sensor. I don't see any issues with it. Almost 1-to-1 on 900s meg band. Yeah, exactly. Really good. So I do like this radio. I'm going to be using this as part of the test. I'm still using my Boxer for now on some stuff. I need to transition. I do need to transition over. I haven't done it yet. But I do have a video coming on this. Although you're now going to see in that video that I fit the wrong antenna. Git. Can't believe I did that. I also did something really stupid and flashed a Bandit module as a Ranger. And I'm sitting there going, it's not working properly. I wonder why. And I managed to flash it. I got myself confused with the Radio Master modules. It does happen even to me. Yeah, I was sitting here going, why isn't this working? And I actually flashed it to the wrong module. What an idiot. Hello, Joseph. Waiting for the max version. Yeah. Can I? Yes, you can. Absolutely use it with your Boxer. And actually, that's a really nice thing. Yeah, you can use it. There's just some modes that won't work. For those who don't know, there is a chart via the ExpressLRS dev team. This is done by Sunjun. I think that's how you say his name. I hope it is, because I've said that in a video. So, in the middle is the modes that are compatible on the new chipsets, the LR1121. With the blue lines is what's compatible on 2.4. On the orange lines is what's compatible on 868-900. Basically, there are no FLRC modes on the new module because it doesn't support FLRC. Instead, it supports FSK. Yes, I know everyone's going to be going, FSK, but it's fine. There's some nice new stuff coming from FSK in the future. I sincerely hope that the dev team are going to bring some nice new FSK modes for 2.4 gigs, because at the moment they've only added FSK modes for one FSK mode, which is DK 2.4 gigs, but we haven't got anything faster than 500. Yes, I know it is just with some error correction. Yes, basically error correction. It's a bit more complex than that, but basically, yes, it's FSK with error correction. In essence. Question, does the repeater, does the drum communicate with your radio as well? No. So the repeater is not a mesh, it is a relay. So the radio has to communicate with the relay has to communicate with the drone. If the repeater, the relay was a mile away and your drone was next to you, your signal would have to go out to the repeater relay and back to the drone. It cannot go from A to B. What would be the use for a TX repeater? Two things. Long range, so you might want a repeater at midpoint, or situations where you're not able to maintain visual line of sight, or at least RF line of sight, but you could put a repeater in a position of where it would get signal. Now, I actually drew an image of this on ExpressLRS last night in what I'm going to be doing for my test. It's probably got lost, but this image is a highly technical drawing, right? I will show you now. So this is a highly technical drawing of what it would allow you to do. Now, don't all fall off your seats. It's on the level of what I drew for the 04A unit, as you can see. But if you think about this being a big hill, lots of landmass, stone and everything, pilot is located here, the repeater located here. What it would allow you to do is fly around that corner, in theory, because the repeater is picking up the signal from the pilot and it's repeating the signal around the bend. So it would allow you to do that. So that's the kind of theory that the repeater would allow you to do. You've then got to go against all of the technicalities of the antenna nulls, because you've got to remember, for instance, there and there is a null of that antenna, which is fine. We're not going to hit that there. But this one gets a bit dodgy because your null is actually about there and your null is there. So you've got to be careful where your nulls actually are when you repeater. But the idea is it would allow you to be able to fly around the bend. Yeah, a mesh would be cool. Sarah Davis, I've heard conflicting information about the ExpressLRS relay. Does telemetry from the receiver on the aircraft make it back to the radio controller? I don't know. That is a question I have that I have not tested yet. If any of the ExpressLRS dev teams can say now, if not, I'll have to test it because I haven't tested that yet. But that is the theory for the design and setup. I haven't tested that yet. That is something that I have not had the opportunity to try. What we can do is if we power this up and that up, we will see if there's telemetry. There's an easy way of checking this.
Throttle warning. Switch warning.
Get off. Thank you very much. So we've got the radio. If I power this up first of all, so this now will power and connect halfway. Basically.
Telemetry connected.
And what telemetry is connected. So let's have a look at what telemetry are we getting. Discover new. And I haven't tested this yet. So we're only getting 10. So we're getting 1 RSI, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Right. Okay. Now, let me power up this. Let me just go and get a battery. Now, this should have connected to that. And if I now... I'm just guessing it's connected. How can I tell if this is actually connected? I'm trying to see if this one has actually... It should have. Yeah, it's definitely connected because it armed. So let's search. So we discover new. Yes, it does. Look at that. We've got RX bat, current. So let me just arm. I'm going to hold my finger on the quad and arm a second. Doesn't show anything else on there. Is that actually from the drone? Stabilized mode. I need to check what modes I've got set up. There you go. It's changing mode. That has to be from the aircraft. Because mode's changing. Oh, God. There you go. Watch the roll. So I'm going to just move the aircraft. So I'm just going to hold it there. Ready? I'm going to flip it up on its side. There you go. You can see the pitches and rolls are moving. Very cool. What I don't know is, and here's a question, is when it comes to TX power 10 milliwatts. So wait there. So if I unplug this a minute, 1 RSS and 2 RSS. So what?
Sensor lost. Sensor lost. Sensor lost.
TX power 10 milliwatts, TX quality. Yeah, so you lose some of this, then you'll see in a second. We'll lose this other stuff in a second. Now it's disconnected. But yeah.
Sensor lost.
There you go. It's lost the other sensors now.
Sensor lost. Sensor
So that's
lost.
so that is everything we got. We got current. So everything at the top is between the modules, and everything down we've lost. That's really cool. That is really, really cool. So it relays. So what we have, if I just go back to the desktop. Oh no, if I go to the overhead. So what we have is, so this is obviously our signal and quality out to our receiver, which is this receiver. We don't have that information from here out, but we will be able to see that on the OSD of our drone with regards to what we're getting on here, as long as you have your LQ and everything set up there. So what you can have is your link quality to your relay on your radio, and your link quality from your transmitter to your drone on your OSD. If my brain is understanding that correctly. What's the point of having the RC link with no video? That is interesting. What is the use case without a video feed? Well, probably isn't, but I have the ability to relay the video feed as well. Hence the reason for this. Okay, if you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat and I will answer them as soon as I can. Be good to... If it was legit in your country, you could relay 1.3 to 5.8, 100%. That is such a cool feature. That is such a cool feature. It really is. Incredibly cool. Okay, if you guys have any questions, now time to put it in. At this point, I was going to talk about 2024 and stupid question, does that mean I could use an ExpressLRS TX with the new chipset with a cheaper F-Sky Whoop? No, it would have to be an ExpressLRS Whoop. It doesn't matter what version of the module, you can use it, but it has to be ExpressLRS. I just wonder if you kept the relay working 24/7, would it damage? As long as it's not overheating, there's no reason it would. Cross protocol repeater. you know, look, you could technically do this with Crossfire as well. You could do this with... Would the GX12 screen work on the Boxer? It's the same size, but I don't know if it's the same physical fitment. I thought that's why... No, FSK... Look, FSK is just the baseline modulation. It's not the protocol. Remember, the modulation is... What's the easiest term to think of the modulation? Think of the modulation like a frequency, like the frequency. Think of the modulation like an instrument, a musical instrument. So a guitar, FSK might be a guitar, LoRa might be a drum. You're doing what you play on it might be different, but all guitars will behave the same, sound the same overall. All drums will sound the same. Did you cover the 04 camera size? Will it micro mount? It's 14mm. Just catching down. Oh, has something launched that I wasn't told about? Has something come out that I wasn't aware of? Is it this? Now, I have a bit of a story about this. I can exclusively show you a bit of an early version of one of these here. Unfortunately, though, it ended up in the sea. Now, this is what you're seeing here is the new SFOC from FetTech. Now, they very kindly sent me one of these to try out, and I was doing some testing, and unfortunately, I had a bad ExpressLRS receiver. And first of all, I ended up losing it in a tree. And I have shown you guys the footage of that, where I had to wade through a load of trees to get to this. Now, where is this? I've now got to find where the video is of this. Here it is. So, let me show you guys something. Now, I don't know if you're going to get the audio on this. Let me just have a look. Let me just... Right, so let me do this. Let me do this. And let me turn on this. Here we go.
I don't fucking believe this. So first flight on the rebuild. And this is the quad that failed safe randomly the other day. And it's had a complete rebuild. And it just completely again randomly failed safe. But this time...
Have you got an echo loop? One.
And it's had a complete rebuild. And it just completely again randomly fail-safed, but this time over water. And now it seems to be in what I'm about to show you. There it is, underwater. Oh fuck. Well, I'm not sure if this is ever going to work again. Anyway, right, I am going to try and pull the battery first before doing anything else for safety, he says. Pulling the strap. There we go. So that's the lipo. And there's the quad. Bollocks.
Now, that was what happened. This is the footage of what it looked like when I got it home and checked it under the microscope. And here you can see what salt water does to electronics. You can see it has corroded, and bear in mind it was in 2 to 3 minutes max. It has eaten away at the pads on the ESC. It has eaten away at the legs of the components. It has literally eaten away at absolutely everything. It is insane the damage that a lipoed drone gets under salt water, because this was like 2 minutes. 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes for me to get to it. The pads are just gone. There's nothing left there. There you can see it under more detail on the flight controller. It just ate. No, there was no conformal coating. That's less than an hour. It's like 30 minutes to get it home. This is less than half an hour from ground, crash zero. Oh yeah, it's dead. It's well dead. There was, I'll show you it after a cleanup. Was it? What scared me was what it had done on like the legs of components. I actually got under the microscope there. No, that's a different board, actually. That's a repair on something else. Was this clean at this point? No, that's a Cadex board. So it was just crazy. Just crazy. Now, when I show you on the overhead, it even ate away sides of capacitors. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. So, yes, there's a new ESC from FetTech. The failure was not the ESC's fault. I ended up actually, I had a crash the day before and it ended up in a tree. And I had a real hard time getting it out of that tree. And it fail-safed randomly. And I thought it was an antenna issue. I swapped the antenna on the ExpressLRS receiver. Yet it then again. And now I killed... There was something really bad with that receiver. In the end, I just binned it. I wasn't even trying it again. Now, when it fail-safed, it literally was going and it just dropped. It was a complete random fail-safe. It's this one here, in fact. The one I showed before. I think it's this one. I literally flew down the beach. I was just doing some basic testing. Wasn't a maiden. I turned watch and then it went. It was like... And of all of the parts for it to fall, it caught the edge of the river. Literally coming around and it's like, oh, you git. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, FETEC's new SFOC ESC is out. Some really cool stuff on this, and I'm going to have to order one in because I destroyed one, so I need to order one in to show you guys properly because... I really do need to have a proper talk about this one. It's unusual. To be fair, that's probably the first craft that I have destroyed, and I mean every part of it was destroyed. There wasn't anything salvageable. That's a VTX. I lost a whole kit in that one. I got it back. The only thing that might work is the frame is fine. But other than that, that's the first quad I've probably lost in 2 years. I haven't had an off for quite a long time. That I've lost the craft and couldn't get it back or something. It happens. And it's also cursed that it's like new hardware that you're testing. That was a hard... I'm in this weird position again where it looks now, yeah, it just fail-safed and it just did the instant beta flight, you're going off for some odd reason. But it's nice to see the ESC is out. Price-wise, I think it's okay. Someone said it's a bit expensive. Look, you got to take into account, this isn't open source. You are paying here just like you are paying for the Voltara. You're paying here for a company who is making their own ESC, their own software stack. They are, there's no open source here. It's closed source. It's their hardware, their software, and that costs money. And as a result of that, obviously you're paying $84.99. Is it higher cost than, say, a 50 or a 60 from SkyStars? Yeah, you're paying more. You're paying more than the TBS. The TBS ESC is, what, $55? But again, that's based on AM32. So, look, it depends what you're after. European made, European company. There's a lot of... It's not apples for apples. It's not the same. TBS are banging out some really nice hardware, but it's being made in China en masse. And, it's a different kettle of fish, and the one thing we've got to be careful of in FPV is the race to the bottom for all open source free software. Look, open source is amazing, okay? When there are great projects, things go well. And the greatest example actually today is ExpressLRS and Betaflight. They are two projects that work extremely closely with hardware vendors. And ExpressLRS especially, and I know Betaflight are moving into this now as well, are trying to control the hardware. So they are going, no, we're not going to certify this if you don't follow our recommendations. And that's not done because they want to be difficult. It's done so you don't get all of the problems that we were having before with targets that don't work properly, problems and all of this. And it's really good that they've gone down that road. The risk with open source is where you get like AM32 and others who don't sort of have that today, where people can just do what they want. And then users run into issues because you then get ESCs that no one has seen, that the target has been made for by the manufacturer, or they've used a different target and it doesn't quite work properly, and you get issues like that. That isn't to say open source isn't good. Open source is obviously amazing and it's done incredible things, but open source doesn't mean a free-for-all. And this is probably, and actually it ties into what I said earlier about OpenIPC. OpenIPC's biggest challenge is going to be keeping the hardware manufacturers under control, because that is the bit that will cause problems. Loads of people spitting out hardware that has limited or incorrect functionality with the project and doesn't work, and then that means a user buys it, a user tries it, says this is crap, it doesn't work properly, and it gives the project a bad reputation. So open source software actually is at its best with quite tight hardware control, especially in the world we're in. And that's sort of what we have today with ExpressLRS, and we're getting with Betaflight. Tight integration, follow this set of rules, or we won't certify it. And that's sort of the importance thing of things being linked. It's great to see, though, it's out. I've had this. ArduPilot takes the opposite approach. So, John, ArduPilot really goes, if we see a piece of hardware that's quite cool, we'll try and add support for it. What you tend to find with ArduPilot, and I love ArduPilot, I think it's brilliant, but here's where the problem with ArduPilot is. You tend to find in the ArduPilot world, hardware manufacturers will make something, and the actual support for that will come many years down the line. So an example of that might be a built-in flight controller gyro into a GPS module, yet the software for that doesn't come for 2-3 years down the line, because the project is, the software tends to lag the hardware in the ArduPilot world. Once the hardware is out, they don't necessarily come together at the same time. So what you find with ArduPilot is the first sort of 6 months of support for something new can be really quite sketchy. Challenging, doesn't work properly, and then you're left in this back and forth between the ArduPilot devs and the manufacturer. And I've been there, I've seen this happen many times. And ArduPilot tends to try to work with everything and everyone. Whereas Betaflight, ExpressLRS, whilst they work with everyone, they have some sort of rules that they keep people wandering down. So that tends to be the difference. Now, before I wrap this one up, I just want to talk quickly about this year. It's been an interesting year in FPV this year, I think. There's been some really good products this year. The standout for me, did the Boxer launch this year? If it did, that's probably the standout one. I can't remember when the launch of the Boxer was, but that's probably the standout product. Lots of ExpressLRS gear this year, loads of it. I'm going to say it, you know, we had Avatar HD launch. It's been, obviously we had Avatar HD Goggles X, I should say, launch. 2023 for the Boxer, yeah. Not Avatar HD system. We had the Goggles X. I think in the end, it would be fair to label the Goggles X a disappointment overall. I can't really think what the Goggles X really did to improve the Avatar HD system. And what I mean by that is, the Goggles X really didn't bring anything new to the system. So the Goggles X brought you analog and HDMI. The analog is clunky, the HDMI is handy. Okay, that's great. But the Goggles X really didn't push Avatar HD forward as a system. And in fact, you can argue the whole crap show around the gyro support really did nothing. The Moonlight kit was a better product. Yeah, I agree on that. Yeah, Ian, you're right. I think on the Avatar side, the Moonlight was the best product. The GT's a weird one. Cadex are a bit like a dog with loads of dicks. It's running around and it doesn't know what hole to stick it in next. And that is the problem Cadex face. Cadex need a strategy. They need to slow down and think about the product. The Goggles X is a good goggle. It isn't a bad goggle, but it really didn't bring much over the original Avatar goggle and the Fat Shark goggle. We haven't had the upgradable module. Hasn't happened. The head tracking crap was a bit of a crap show. And they really haven't pushed the system forward. There's lots of accessories, but the system is the same. It still has the same compression issues. It still has the lack of Wi-Fi functionality on the goggles. That doesn't even work. When you look at the stuff the Goggles X was meant to bring, the Wi-Fi app really doesn't work properly. You know, what really in the Goggles X was good when you look back? You know. But they have brought some interesting stuff. The repeater. Still no HDMI VTX. The gimbals are cool. I like the functionality. I guess you could argue the Goggles L was the biggest thing for Avatar this year. DJI had the Goggles 3, which was quite nice. Not a big product. You know, the Goggles 3 didn't really do much over the others. The only thing the Goggles X has is the 1080p 100. It's still 1080p 100 on the first goggle, though. It's no different. It's the same displays. It's, you know, Goggles 3 went big. N3, you know, it's not a big product. I think this year it's radios, really, in the end. DJI Integra brought the price down. Well, it brought the price down considerably when... But that was still last year, wasn't it? When it discounted. Yeah, the face rubber and, you know, the face Johnny works quite well on the Goggles 3. Evolutionary, not revolutionary. I think the gimbals, but it wasn't just Cadex, but I do like the Cadex gimbal integration. That works quite nice. Yeah, it's been an interesting year. And if you think forward, obviously 04 is the exciting one. 04 is the big one. HD0 AAO5, yeah, you know, no one else has done anything like that. It's big in a limited space, but yeah, absolutely HD0 in that world as well. I think for 2025, you know, Carl's working on a budget goggle. That's great. So I'm getting tired now. 04 is going to be the biggie. 04 will set 2025. Even if Cadex bring in an updated system, I think they're going to have a real hard time getting new DJI. I just don't think they'll get new. I'd like to see whatever comes in a V2. It needs to happen. I'd like to see the compression fixed because it's still horrific. If you fly Avatar in green settings, it's horrid. It is terrible. Will 04 work with the Goggles N3? Yes, they will. Options on iFlight Commando 8 Vision 2. I don't know. I've not used it. I'm not a big fan of iFlight's controllers. Get yourself a Radiomaster Pocket. Much better remote. Hands down. Cadex need to beat them on price even still. Yeah, and that's going to be hard if 03 is coming in at $110. I still think the Pro is going to be $220, $230 in the UK. So it's still going to be an expensive beast. I think 04 will be the big one. 04 will be the big one of 2025. I would... but there's lots we don't know about. There's lots that we haven't heard about. So we're going to have to wait and see. Right. That's it for this stream. I want to say a huge thank you for all of the donations. Thank you, Joseph. You gave $10 as well at the end. Thank you to that, my friend. I really do appreciate it. Look, everyone, we're probably not going to be live next Sunday because I'm away and I've got some time off. So it will be probably 2 weeks before I'm back. I might do a random live in between, but if I don't, I want to say a very Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you to all for the support. There will be a video going out on this. I want to wish everyone the happy seasonal greetings. We will see you again in the new year. Look after yourself, stay safe, and I will speak to you soon.